This happened a few years back. My ex had a stalker for about 2 years. 1 year before I met her, and another year into us dating. She had mentioned early on that she thought someone was watching her, but she kind of gotten used to brushing it off. She did not want to seem paranoid, but she had a gut feeling that someone had been following her for a while. At first, I did not think too much of it. I figured maybe someone had a thing for her and was being a creep, but nothing that serious. But then she started getting weird calls, blocked numbers, no one on the other end. It would happen late at night, sometimes right after she got home. A couple of times she picked up and just sat there, listening, hoping they'd say something. They never did. One night, we went out to eat, and when we got back to her place, there was a rose on the windshield of her car. No note, nothing else, just the rose. That was when I started paying closer attention. She told me she thought she'd seen a guy a few times in the same car, an old silver Camry, parked outside her work, and sometimes slowly driving by her house. Every time we'd call the cops, they'd take a statement, maybe patrol the neighborhood for a day or two, and that was it. They kept saying there wasn't enough evidence to do anything unless he threatened her directly or caused damage. Then things escalated. We were watching a movie one night in her living room when, out of nowhere, the front door just flew open. It wasn't subtle. It was kicked in so hard that it knocked the deadbolt out of the frame. The house alarm started blaring instantly, and I jumped up and ran toward the door, but he was already gone, just bolted away. We called the police again. This time they took it a little more seriously. They took photos, even dusted for prints, and they said they'd investigate it, but it still felt like the same runaround. We did not sleep much that night. She was crying in bed next to me, and I was just lying there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how we could have been seriously hurt, or worse, if the alarm hadn't scared him off. That was the breaking point for me. I did not trust that the system was going to protect her, and I knew she did not either. So I decided I was going to handle it myself. And looking back now, I know it was risky, and honestly pretty dumb. But I was angry. I felt helpless. So we made a plan. She would leave the house alone like normal and go about her routine, but she'd keep an eye out. If she noticed him following her, she'd text me. Then I'd follow him. A few days later, it happened. She left for the pharmacy, and within minutes, she texted me, "He's behind me." So I jumped in my car and caught up to them about a block away. He followed her into the parking lot, but did not get out. He just sat there in the car, parked facing the front door of the pharmacy, waiting. I parked a little ways off, got out, walked over, and opened his door before he had time to react. I don't even remember exactly what I said to him. I just remember how scared he looked when he realized someone was confronting him. I didn't care. I snapped. I yanked him out of the car and threw him to the pavement. I'm not proud of what happened next, but I beat him pretty bad. I'm not a small guy, and once I saw blood, I knew I should stop, but I didn't. I stomped his face once, hard, and I think that's when his jaw dislocated. He wasn't moving much after that. I leaned down and told him that if I ever saw him near her again, I would kill him. Then I got in my car and drove off. Well, we never heard from him again. Not a phone call, not a sighting, nothing. He disappeared. We found out later that he had gone to high school with her and had a thing for her back then. She barely even remembered him. They never dated, never even talked outside of a group project once. It was just obsession. Quiet, creepy obsession that grew into something dangerous. We ended up breaking up about 6 months later for unrelated reasons, but I still think about that time often in my life, especially the night he kicked in the door. That sound still haunts me sometimes. The bang, the alarm, her screaming. I don't regret what I did. I regret that I had to do it though. But sometimes it feels like no one takes this kind of thing seriously until someone ends up dead. I don't know if I'd call him a stalker exactly. He was just weird, off, creepy in that way that doesn't seem like a threat until you take a step back and look at the whole picture. So, we met in college, had a couple of classes together, ended up working on a group project, and we hit it off. He was smart, a little awkward, but easy to talk to. We tried dating briefly, but it did not really go anywhere. Mostly because I was planning to move after graduation, and he wasn't. We agreed to stay friends though. It wasn't really a big deal. For the next couple of years, we text here and there. Nothing heavy, just small check-ins or the occasional meme. He'd reply to my Instagram stories or tag me in a comment sometimes. You know, pretty normal stuff. Then I got into a serious relationship. I did not even mention it to him because I didn't think I needed to. We weren't that close anymore. But I guess he noticed from my social media. One day, out of nowhere, he messaged me saying, "Hey, I'm going to delete you. I just can't do this anymore." And then he blocked me. Honestly, I respected it. I figured he had feelings that hadn't gone away and did not want to be reminded of me. I was fine with the distance. Well, fast forward a year. I'm at home, just a normal Sunday, when I get a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I open it and it's him. I live on the West Coast. He lives on the East Coast. That's a 3-hour flight. At first I thought maybe he was in town for something else, like a work trip or a wedding. But no. He said he just wanted to see how I was doing. I told him this was really unexpected and that my boyfriend was literally in the other room. He kind of laughed it off and said, "I won't stay long." Well, I did not let him in. I told him it wasn't a good time and that I was uncomfortable. He left. About 20 minutes later, he started texting, saying how rude I'd been, that he flew all the way out here just to talk, and I couldn't even give him 10 minutes. He sent like 6 messages in a row. Nothing threatening, just guilt-tripping and very passive-aggressive. I showed them to my boyfriend, and he was like, "What the heck is this guy's problem?" We agreed I should just meet him somewhere public, tell him to leave me alone, and be done with it. So we chose a coffee shop nearby, and my boyfriend drove me there and waited in the parking lot while I went inside. He was already there when I walked in. No coffee, just sitting at a table. I sat down and said, "You've got 10 minutes. He looked a little caught off guard by how cold I was, and then he says, "I just wanted to say that I'm over you. I came here to tell you in person because I thought you deserved to know this." I literally said nothing. I just stared at him. I was so thrown off by how backwards the whole thing was. Like, he blocked me. He cut me off. I moved on. And now he's flying across the country to tell me he's over me? I stood up and said, "Okay, got it." And I walked out. My boyfriend was laughing when I got back to the car, like he couldn't believe someone would actually pull something that weird. I was more annoyed than anything, but then the guy texted me later that night, said he'd been thinking about me and wanted to know if there was any chance I still had feelings for him. I blocked his number right then and there. Never heard from him again, actually. Looking back, it's easy to brush it off as some pathetic guy trying one last time. But it also creeps me out that he went through all that effort for what? Just to try and get a reaction? To feel like he had the upper hand again? I still wonder what he was expecting. That I'd be flattered? That I'd leave my boyfriend and thank him for flying across the country to confess that he didn't want me? Some people do not take rejection well, but what really stuck with me was how he tried to spin it like he was the one doing me a favor. That's the part that made my skin crawl. Anyway, lesson learned. Just because someone doesn't seem threatening doesn't mean they're harmless. Sometimes the creepiest ones are the ones who think they're being completely rational. I was best friends with a girl named Rachel during college. We met freshman year in one of those big lecture hall classes and hit it off pretty quickly. She was a little awkward, but sweet. We hung out all the time, grabbed food, studied together, late-night Walmart runs, that kind of stuff. I considered her one of the few people I could actually trust. But that all changed when she met this guy, Kevin. Kevin was in one of her psych classes sophomore year. At first, he was just a guy who sat near her and sometimes tried to make conversation. She described him as a little off, but harmless. He'd ask weird questions, overly personal questions, or linger too long after class. But Rachel felt bad for him, like he didn't have many friends, so she'd always try to be polite. Then the weird stuff started to happen. He began waiting for her after class, even though they didn't leave in the same direction. She said she pretended to tie her shoe or go to the bathroom just to avoid walking with him. Sometimes it worked, sometimes he'd just wait longer. One night I stayed over at her dorm. We were watching Netflix, and she went to brush her teeth before bed. Her dorm faced the street, and I happened to look out the window. Kevin was standing on the sidewalk, facing her window, just staring. Not on his phone, not walking by, just standing there, motionless. So I told her. She looked out and froze. Then she closed the curtain and did not say much, just went straight to bed. I told her she had to report it, that this was not normal, but she said it would make things worse, that he hadn't technically done anything. Well, things escalated from there. He started popping up around town when we were out. We'd be getting coffee, and suddenly he'd be there, sitting at the table next to us. Once we were walking back from the library late at night, and he somehow ended up a few paces behind us, walking in silence. We ducked into a gas station to lose him. I asked her again to report it. She didn't. Then registration for spring classes came up. At our school, you got a very specific window to log in and register, like a 30-minute block, and some classes filled up fast. Rachel had a doctor's appointment during her slot, and was stressed about missing out on a couple of required classes. And for reasons I still don't understand, she asked Kevin to register for her. Not me, not our roommate, Kevin. I told her she was nuts, but she brushed it off and said, "He offered. He's not as bad as you think." He did not just register her. He wrote down her entire schedule and registered for the exact same classes. So now, instead of seeing him occasionally, she had to see him every day. He'd sit next to her, walk her to class, hang around when it ended. It wasn't just creepy, it was suffocating. But instead of being disturbed, Rachel started talking about how sweet he was, how loyal he was. She actually said, "At least I know he really likes me. Most guys just leave." That was the moment I realized I did not know her like I thought I did. Her self-esteem was so low that being stalked somehow translated to affection. We drifted apart after that. I couldn't stand being around Kevin, and I couldn't watch her slowly cave into him like it was some kind of romance story. Every time I tried to say something, she'd get defensive and accuse me of being judgmental. So I just backed off. I saw her less and less. By senior year, we were basically strangers. I heard through mutual friends that they were officially dating. Kevin started walking her to class every day, every meal. People whispered about it, but no one ever said anything to her face. We didn't talk again after graduation. Then, a few weeks ago, I was scrolling Facebook and saw photos of a wedding. At first, I didn't recognize the bride. She dyed her hair, looked different. But it was Rachel, and standing next to her in a suit, grinning ear to ear, was Kevin. A mutual friend had gone to the wedding and tagged them. I clicked through the pictures. He had that same vacant expression he always had, just a little too intense, a little too eager. She looked fine, I guess. Not happy, not unhappy, just like someone going through the motions. It seriously messed with my head for a few days. I still don't know how you go from calling someone a creep to marrying them. Maybe she truly convinced herself it was love. Or maybe she just needed someone, anyone, who wouldn't leave. And he fit the role. I honestly don't know if I feel sorry for her or just disturbed. Probably both. But that's the last time I ever tried to push someone to report a stalker. If they don't want to see it, they won't. And sometimes, they'll invite the danger right in. Literally, forever.